Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanisms in Clans of Caledonia, a heavy economic Euro game for 1 to 4 players. I say heavy, but it's actually fairly easy to learn and teach. I learned and taught it on Saturday and then played another game immediately afterward and taught another 3 people, both 4-player games, and both went surprisingly smoothly for a game with a lot of moving parts and bits, but not all that much. It's complex, but it's not complicated, which I love. There are so many things, so many mechanisms I think that are relevant in this game to other designers and that I personally love that I'm going to kind of do a rapid fire today of stuff I really like. The first is that at the beginning of every game you start with $55, among other things. You get a few random variable starting resources and bonuses, but everybody starts with $55. Now, I know you have no concept of how much money that is in the game, but it's a lot of money, and it feels really good to start off that powerful from turn 1. A recent Ludology podcast talked about this with Terraforming Mars, where you start off feeling really powerful in that first turn. Another thing I like are the variable powers. Now, this isn't unique to this game. Lots of games have variable powers, but what I really like in this game is that, kind of similar to Marco Polo, the variable powers all feel really strong. They're not like little tweaks. They are things that can really define your strategy. Even though you're doing a lot of stuff, they are important to the game. I really like how powerful they felt. I always love in games when I like the power that I have, but I'm jealous of other people's powers because it means that they're generally pretty good. I love games where you have stuff on mats like Terra Mystica and Scythe, and where when you pull those things off mats, your engine gets more powerful. Clans of Caledonia has that in spades. Clans of Caledonia has something in the game that I really love, especially with a spatial game, because there is a board in this game that I'll show you in a second, in that there's a reason to not go off in a corner and be by yourself. In Clans of Caledonia, whenever you build on a territory or expand to a territory that is adjacent to certain token types of other players, only opponents, not your own, you get a free trade action. In this game, that's really good. There's still a cost to it. It's not a purely free bonus, but it is essentially an extra action, and it's discounted. So I really, really like that in games where when you do something near other players, it's good, it's relevant. It keeps players interacting on the board instead of going and doing their own thing. One thing, so I'm moving up to my favorite mechanism. One more before then. I really, really like how the board is structured in this game. So you get these 4 pieces, double-sided, that look like this. And every time I've seen this board, I've been like, how did this guy design this thing to work? Because it's 4 different components that you put together in somewhat random configurations. There are some rules to it. But with Scythe for a long time, I've tried to figure out how to make a modular board, but it doesn't really work with the way the rivers are in the game. And Clans of Caledonia was the first time where I saw a board where I kind of thought that I might have some ideas of how to make a modular board for Scythe. And that's because the bodies of water are very carefully calculated on this map, so that the rivers are often in the middle of the board. You can see that here. They're in the middle. They're not on the edges. And the connection points are just really well designed so that it always works. And it always looks good. It doesn't look like a lake just runs into nothing or a river runs into nothing. They come together really, really well. Finally, let's do my favorite mechanism. My favorite mechanism is this economy board. There's one for 3 or 4 players, one for 1 and 2 players. We played with this one because we were doing 4-player. At the beginning of the game, you put tokens on this row that's circled, put little tokens there. And whenever someone does a trade action, so say I do a trade action where I want to sell, say, 2 cheese. If I want to sell 2 cheese, I'll put 2 merchant tokens down here, and I'll gain the current value of cheese for each of those tokens. So say it's at 10, I'll gain $20. And then I move the token down 2 spaces because I bought 2 cheese, which decreases the price for the next player. This is a brilliant passive interaction system in a game. In Eurogames, Eurogames kind of have a reputation sometimes of being multiplayer solitaire, but this and Eurogames that go the other way, maybe they go too far. They go with this direct interaction that really hurts, that stings, that Eurogamers often don't like. This is a perfect mechanism because you are interacting with the other players, all the other players, when you change the price of something, when you buy something, when you sell something. You're impacting what other players' decisions. but you're not directly targeting anyone, which I really, really love. And it's so intuitive, it's so easy to explain, and it's exciting to kind of keep an eye on this tractor in the game, because you want to buy something at the right moment, you want to sell something at the right moment, and in the right quantity. And also, one other bonus about this board, is that it gives you an out, kind of. It gives you a way to buy stuff that you aren't good at producing. As I mentioned, there's all this stuff that you can produce using your little player mat here, but sometimes you might not be in a good position to produce something, or you may not want to produce something. It may not fit with your variable power, it may not fit with your orders that you're getting, but then randomly late in the game, you'll need a wheat. And this board lets you get that wheat on your turn. Brilliant, brilliant mechanism. I really, really love this. I've essentially described it in full here, but I would recommend watching a full review elsewhere if you want to see fully how this board works and the various interactions that it causes in the game. Lots of awesome stuff in the game. I highly recommend it to Euro players. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you have any passive interaction systems and games that you love that you want to talk about in the comments, I'd love to hear about them as well. Thanks.